Well, Congressman Jim Jordan is currently the chairman of the Republican Study Committee. Was first elected to represent the Ohio's 4th Congressional District in 2007, and he quickly established himself as a key leader in Congress. He's a great defender of faith, family, and freedom, and he joins us now to discuss the mandate and the recent controversy out of HHS. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to be with you, Tony.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this mandate. There's actually a news story out of about the public relations of HHS spending that is questionable, to say the least.
Yeah, using your tax dollars to support a law that you don't support. I mean, such a deal. But that's exactly what I guess you would expect from this administration, the same administration that gave us this law, the same administration that had Catherine Sebelius insult religious freedom and religious liberty. So I guess it's par for the course. And God bless Senator Portman and others who are working to say, hey, what's going on here? How are you spending this tax dollars? What are you really promoting? Let's put a stop to this. We got an important decision coming next week.
Tell our viewers a little bit more about what they're doing with these tax dollars.
Well, it's in favor of the law, using your tax money to
basically commercial promoting.
Yeah, promoting the healthcare law itself. And now, of course, they probably think they have to do it because the vast majority of Americans don't like this law. That's been the case for almost 2 years now, ever since it was being debated, discussed, and passed by Congress, and it continues to be strongly opposed by the American people. And I think the American people are going to remember that come November in this election. But let's hope we get a good decision from the court next week.
Congressman Jordan, you chair the Republican Study Committee, which is what I call the conservative conscience of the House, the largest caucus there in the House,
165, 163, I think, somewhere in that range of members.
And this issue is going to be decided possibly in part or in whole by the Supreme Court when they come down with a decision either this week or next week. Are your colleagues ready to take legislative action to deal with this threat to religious liberty?
Well, I think what we need to do is say, first of all, we hope the court repeals it all. They may do partial repeal. They may just get rid of the individual mandate and leave and place them. We don't know for sure. But let's assume that if they just repeal part of it, say part of it's unconstitutional, I think we should tell the American people, if you elect conservatives, if you elect Republicans in November, we're going to repeal the whole thing. And what we've said is the proper approach is repeal and restart. Restart this important debate. And if we get rid of this whole thing, the new approach to health care should not be a Washington-centered approach. It should be a market-centered approach. It should be an approach that focuses on families and communities. And frankly, as we're talking about here this evening, one that focuses on respect for those key principles like religious liberty, like respect for the sanctity of human life. Those things should be kept in mind as we move forward in this debate. But our focus is repeal it all. Hopefully the court will do that, but if they don't, we should, as elected members of Congress, and then restart this debate and focus on market principles and family-centered principles.
Now we're talking, we're in June. This decision will come down. Elections in November. Pretty tense time between now and election. What do you see happen? Do you see Congress taking action one way or another during this time?
Well, remember, I forget the number, but I think it's 20-some different times we voted to repeal all or part of this bill. So we're on record as saying this is a bad piece of legislation. What happens in the interim? I think we're at that point, and this is just the way the founders set up this great country. We're at that point where we need an election to decide. We got two different visions for America, and it's really characterized in this single piece of legislation. Do you want government running it, or do you want people and families and communities running this, and you and your doctor making decisions about your health care? So you got two different visions, and it's probably appropriate we have an election and the American people decide. And I think they're going to make the right decision. I think they're going to tell this administration, you're no longer going to be in office, and we're going to change.
So this really is kind of the issue that shows Americans what kind of choice that they have.
I think it's fundamental. Not only is it a law which puts the central federal government in charge of health care, but it's one that's been interpreted as one where religious liberty is assaulted. And Americans say, wait a minute, this is not what we want. This is not a piece of legislation that's consistent with the American experience, consistent with American principle. I tell everyone, think about this. On this religious liberty, this predates even the First Amendment. People came to this country because in Europe they were saying you have to practice your faith a certain way, and they said no, we don't. we're going to get on a boat, we're going to risk everything, we're going to go to America and practice it the way we think the good Lord wants us to. And they came here. This is at the heart of what America's about. And so this is time to have an election. And I think the American people are going to speak loud and clear. And the work you're doing, and I want to commend you, the Catholic Church, this Louisiana College, what they're doing, standing up and saying, wait a minute, enough is enough. We are not going to tolerate this. This is inappropriate. This is not consistent with what this great country is about. This is important. And again, we decide these things on Election Day, and I think the American people are going to speak loud and clear.
One of your colleagues is going to join us in just a moment, Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, who
champion on this issue.
So I don't want to steal his thunder, but I do want to address the one aspect that we've heard the media wanting to make this an issue of contraception, a women's issue. Your colleagues are not seeing it as that.
Not at all.
They're seeing this for what it is. It is an attack, as you said, on a very fundamental, in fact, our first freedom.
The very first freedom, predating even the First Amendment, which is, sacrosanct in this country, and it should be, but this is even prior to that. This is your ability as a citizen to practice your faith the way your church and the way your belief system says you should practice it, the way you believe the good Lord wants you to practice it. This is fundamental to who we are as a nation, who we are as a people, and what our culture and country are about. And the idea that this government would be telling us something different, that they're going to tell you how to practice your faith, and oh, by the way, they're going to use your taxpayer dollars to promote the law that tells you how you have to practice your faith, is just plain wrong.
We had Governor Mike Huckabee on earlier in the program, and we were talking about how, it's this issue today, but it's another issue tomorrow. And I just want to ask you this as a member of Congress, a believer, a Christian, as you look at what's happened here in the last 3.5 years, and really, I can only describe it as an all-out assault on religious faith and now freedom in this country. Are you concerned where this may lead if it is not stopped here?
Oh, very much so. And I would even say it's broader than that, Tony. You think about what we've seen from just what we saw last week relative to this administration basically disagreeing with themselves on the immigration issue. And saying now that the executive order, we're going to do something different than what they originally what they originally said the law meant. You see it with actions they have taken to give tax dollars to companies, to bail out companies. You saw it when the president fired the CEO of General Motors and the government took over running jobs. Things we never thought we would witness in this country we have seen. But certainly the most important is the one we're talking about, the one where there's an attack on religious liberty, where the government says, we can tell you as a private citizen, here's how you have to practice your faith. That is more important than all of them. But we have seen this pattern. And again, I've been saying this to every group I get a chance to speak to now, I think the American people see it for what it is. And I think they're going to speak loudly, clearly, and as strong as they possibly can come Election Day this November.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think everything that we enjoy in this country hinges on religious freedom.
Sure.
And if they can take away that, they basically can take away everything we have.
Founders understood it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All are created equal. They started with that. The document that started this grand experiment in freedom that we call the United States of America started from that premise. And to attack that it's a sad day in this country when we see this administration doing that very thing.
Congressman Jim Jordan.
Thank you, brother.
Always good to see you. Thank you.